Have you ever found yourself lying awake at night, staring at the ceiling, worrying about your future? Maybe you're in your late 20s, early 30s, and the weight of adulthood is bearing down on you. Money, career, relationships are often the usual suspects that keep us awake at night. If you're an expat like me, you don't have access to elders who know the system to guide you here in a foreign land. One drop seems insignificant in the grand scheme of things. Yet with time, that dripping can overflow the basin. This is a lot like a month when you didn't make as much money as you could have in your job. If you don't think about it, it'll accumulate and you'll regret not tightening the faucet. Money is one of the leading causes of stress, and the farther you put it off, the more proverbial water you'll have to dry up, and you'll have to fix that faucet anyway. There are smart people who understand money, and they talk about it online. They talk about the things that you could do to avoid this feeling of regret in the future. In this video, I'll share 5 tips that have worked for me to keep that faucet from leaking and to make sure that you're not leaving money on the table. These aren't just theory, these are actionable points that you can take today, steps that have worked for me. Let's dive straight in. The first mistake to avoid is not negotiating your salary. It sounds quite obvious, right? But you'd be surprised how much money you're leaving on the table if you don't negotiate your salary. Thanks to this book, 3 months into my first job, like 4 years ago, I took a seat with my CEO to ask him how he would like to measure my performance. I shared with him the client and the projects that I'm working with. This is a small tech consultancy of less than 100 consultants in Paris. And he shared these 3 usual suspects. Don't get fired, make sure that the client likes your work, and don't ever deliver late. A year in, I made sure that I never missed these 3 points. I made sure that I delivered on time. The second year rolled in and I still didn't get any increase whatsoever. And I was in a very ambitious 10% increase place in my head. I was hoping to get that. But 2 years in, I didn't get anything. And this conversation helped me measure, and it gave me the confidence to quit the job. 2 years in, I quit the job and I got another job which paid me 2 times my previous income. The point I'm trying to make over here is if you never measure the value of the skills you have in the marketplace in that specific industry, then you'll never be able to amplify it. You'll never know what's valuable in this industry. And this conversation with the CEO helped me to build that value. First of all, to recognize mine and then to build mine. So if you're sitting on a job offer or thinking about asking for a raise, take a page out of Sethi's book. Always negotiate. Now that you know how to make some money, be wise with it. While France is a great country for employee rights, employee benefits, anything could happen and you should save up for a rainy day. For me, that looks something like 6 months of rent and overhead, plus an emergency last minute ticket to India. And that's something like 15,000 euros for me, which always lives in my savings account, my Livret A, which is really liquid. I could use it anytime. The benefit of doing this in France, the reason I love this country apart from the language, is I don't have to worry about my health. There's universal healthcare, and apart from that, there's also private healthcare that my company pays for. Every company pays for it. So it feels nice to know that if anything happens to my health, the system in the country will take care of me. So that money that I've saved is really for rent. If I was living in a country that doesn't have this, then I would probably save a little more, have some kind of leeway for health kind of stuff. This brings me to point 3, learning how you can partnership with the government. Whichever country you live in, you need to know the system. In France as well, there are these investments that you can make with the government, which will come back to bless you in your retirement days. For instance, there's this thing called the Loi Pinel, where the government gives you back your income tax money you would never see otherwise if you partnership with the government to build houses. So you pay a small fraction of the house, and over 6 years, this house is yours that you can sell. And the market rate at that point will always be above what money you've already put in. This scheme is called the Loi Pinel, and there is a host of other schemes. For those familiar with the American 401k, there is an alternative here in France. There's actually a couple of alternatives of retirement funds that you can put money into to reduce the amount of tax you're paying to the government. This is you telling your government, I'm here for the long term, I'm putting in money into the system, into the economy, so give me some kind of benefits. You need to know about these things, otherwise you just stand to lose this money over a period of time. The first year of work, you'd probably ignore this, thinking that I'm still young, I still have a lot of time to save money, but little things add up, and you'd be surprised how much money you could accumulate if you are just a little disciplined with this. For me, with my company, I have standing instructions where before the salary comes into my account, this money is already invested in. Putting away a few €100 from experience, I can tell you, doesn't feel like much right now because it goes away before. But trust me when I tell you, study these benefits yourself and see how much you stand to get back in your retirement days. Just to name a few, there's the Loi Pinel that I just spoke about. There's Assurance Vie, which is not life insurance because you already have life insurance in France. There are a couple of tax savings retirement funds that you can put your money into. There's also intéressement, participation, this money that you stand to gain from your company. If you don't know about these things, then you would never pick a company for these financial reasons. You'll end up picking them for brand value reasons. Like Sethi says in the book, you don't need to be an expert to be rich. You just need to start early. So looking these things things up is the wise thing to do. This book got me comfortable talking about these things, and that's what helped me to learn about the system, learn about the market here in France. I still know a bit, but I'm glad I know this much relative to me 4-5 years ago when I had no idea what it's like to be a professional in France. This lifestyle creep thing is real for me. Back when I was a student, I would not even buy a croissant or coffee out of the way because I was having a tight budget. But now I notice that I make these kind of daily, monthly expenses, and I think this is my choice of a rich life. However, there are these marketing things that I've put my money into, things that I was convinced about then, and over months I realized that this is just draining my bank account. So to combat this, I used my Revolut card. I got this card when I was living in the Netherlands because my Visa card didn't work over there. However, I've repurposed my Revolut for my stay now in Paris, where all my monthly subscriptions goes into the Revolut card. So at any given moment, I can fire up my phone, the Revolut app, and see what I'm spending, audit what I'm spending on a monthly. This has helped me to save expenses like Adobe Photoshop, which is a very advanced tool for my need. Instead, I'm spending money on Canva, which is a fraction of the price of Photoshop. And if I didn't look at this on my Revolut, I would probably not pay attention to when this money left my bank account. In the book, Ramesh Sethi asks you to call your credit card company and to ask them shamelessly to waive off your fees. I did this with my phone carrier company, and I shit you not, it worked. I paid €19.99 when I was a student for like 2 or 3 years. And then when I called them, they just waived it off to €9.99 for a whole year. And when the year was over, they called me and they told me it's going to go back to $19.99 unless I use their Wi-Fi. So I asked my landlord to buy this Wi-Fi. It's a part of the rent agreement. She will pay for our Wi-Fi. So I got the Wi-Fi, and now I pay 50% off versus what I used to pay as a student versus what everybody else pays in the city for the same service. And with the money I saved, the $9.99 I saved, I spent that on Audible. Audible has brought me so much value in my life, including this book, because I don't like to read books. I prefer to listen to them. So this is a service that I can completely justify because it's literally free. I'm not paying for it at all. Having this clarity on monthly expenses helps me to justify the money that I've spent on things that really bring me a lot of pleasure. I love to make these videos, so I have a great camera, I have a great computer, I have a great phone, 2 great phones, and I use this to document my life. And this is the growth mindset that I learned from the book, where you should spend shamelessly on things that really bring you pleasure or would bring you regret later, and cut off ruthlessly on things that you don't really need. So I know I'm not much of a concert person, so I just would not spend, even if it's just €20. I know it's not for me, so I would just not spend money on a concert or a nightclub. That's not for me. Which brings me to the last point in this video, which I must admit I have not seen financial benefits in yet, in the size that I would like to see, but it's the literal definition of money. I've taken to making these videos online about things that I just learned, about my language, my nationality, my job, the financing that I'm sharing with you over here. I shared this on LinkedIn as well, and I'm really humbled by how many people are benefited from this. And I see this when people reach out to me, so I know I'm in the right direction. I'm humbled that sitting behind my computer and talking about things that are just happening in my life, things that I'm learning in my life, is driving so much value to people. If you haven't thought about this, I would implore you to think about stacking up karma in your favor. So if you spend 30 minutes to a couple of hours a week doing this, that's what I'm doing right now. Oh, it's getting bright. So if you spend 30 minutes to a couple of hours a week just talking about things that you've learned, you'd be surprised how many people get benefited from that. It looks like the internet is a saturated place where every piece of advice already exists. I should tell you, there's nothing new under the sun. Even Ramesh's book is not new. But the fact that you've applied it to your life and that you're sharing what has worked for you could be valuable to underrepresented cultures. And I definitely feel India is underrepresented. So here I am sitting in front of my camera. If any part of this video was valuable to you, please leave a thumbs up. It definitely helps my channel. Share this with someone who's starting off their professional journey so that they don't make these money mistakes and they end up living a richer life just thinking about and looking these things up. I'll see you guys next week when I talk about that exhaustive list of financial benefits in France. Man, that was one heavy sentence. Make sure you're subscribed to not miss that video. Take care and keep learning.